So the big question is this: how do investors like us who trade options and manage our own money generate income regardless of where the stock market goes, and do it all in a way that lets us make time for the people and things we love, and yet still build wealth and remain profitable? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. I'm your host, Kirk Duplessis, and you're listening to the Daily Call from Option Alpha. All right, hey there again, it's Kirk, and welcome to the very first episode here of the Daily Call from Option Alpha. And I'm super excited to start doing this podcast. This is literally the first recording that I'm doing here. So what I want to do is set the stage and the foundation here for why we're doing this show, why it's this new podcast, what's happening to the old, which nothing's happening to the old podcast, but what the format's going to be, the topics that we're going to cover in this thing, and generally just kind of like the roadmap of where I see this thing going and my goals for it moving forward in the future. Now, I hope that everyone listens to this episode, and if you have listened to any other episodes after this, because we're going to be releasing this podcast with a bunch of other episodes, and obviously we'll be doing them every single day, then maybe you come back and you listen to this and just understand how the episodes are structured and why some might be different than others, right? So in this show, like I said, I just want to kind of lay the foundation, tell you what to expect, and then you can keep moving forward and check out any of the other shows that we have. So the first thing is why? Like, why even do this, right? And the reason is because I still feel like there's a lot I want to talk about. And it's not just about options in this case. So we'll be mainly talking about options, but sometimes I feel like there's topics that we need to cover that are psychological topics on psychology and on motivation, on confidence, on overcoming a losing trade, or being humble during a streak of winning trades. I mean, all these different topics that maybe don't justify a full-blown episode on our weekly podcast, which our weekly podcast is not going away. I still want to do those. I love still doing those because I get interaction from people who submit comments, and we add those to the Trader Q&A. We talk about a trade that we're doing, and we then go in depth on those podcasts on a case study or an interview. And so those aren't going away. But what I wanted was something to supplement my podcast when I have ideas that I want to talk about, little tweaks, little strategy changes that, again, maybe just don't justify a 45-minute podcast. So the next question is, well, how often and what's the format that this is going to be? And so, of course, it's going to be a daily show. And so most of these things we'll be recording the day before or a couple days before. Sometimes we'll batch some topics, that we know people have questions on. Again, the whole idea is just to talk as much as possible about every little options trading thing that's out there, along with the lifestyle, if you want to call it that. I really kind of hate that term, but I don't know what other better term to describe it, but kind of like how you do this with a family and a job and, ideas and strategies, taxes, income, draws, all that stuff that kind of goes into it that, again, might not be right for a show. So what you'll often find in this podcast is little tidbits about maybe a market, maybe a quote that somebody had, and we kind of discuss it, something that's happening in the market, maybe just reminder about a topic, or, how to fill a trade or how to adjust a trade or whatever the case is. But we're also going to be going into things, I imagine, in the future, because I'm just recording this first one now and don't exactly know what, the future holds for 300, 400, 500 episodes of this podcast, hopefully. But I imagine that we'll be going into things like, why do we care about a market downturn? Or what happens if you have a losing trade? Or how do you explain that you trade options to your family members, right? Or to your coworkers, right? Because it's got this like black sheep mentality in the investing space. So I think the topics are going to be pretty broad, and I don't want to pigeonhole myself to any one area. I want to try to cover as much as possible. Anything that kind of comes up that I think is interesting, or that people bring up in the forums, or through email, or shooting us messages on social media, I want to cover a lot of these things. The format, like I said, is going to be daily, but the length of these podcasts will probably not be that long. And I think that's actually a good thing. What I've often heard from people is that they love the podcast, the main one on the weekly podcast, but they kind of have to carve out time to listen to it. And I get that. I respect that, because we're all busy and we're all kind of on the go. And so the idea with this daily call is that you can take these little tidbits of information with you really quickly during the day, right? You can download and listen to them and, listen to it in 5 minutes or 6 minutes or whatever. I mean, it's literally, walking from your car to your work, right? If you have to walk to work, or just commuting in traffic, or whatever the case is. And that's really what I want it to be, is this constant stream of motivation, of education, of maybe insight, or just keep the juices flowing basically on a more consecutive basis or a more consistent basis. And so that's really why I want to do this. They're going to be short. Some may even be, just a couple minutes. And I, don't discount that might happen. Some might be a little bit longer, maybe 10 minutes on that topic because I really go on a rant or whatever the case is. But I think it's going to be shorter than usual for sure, and lots of digestible pieces that you can find. The other part of it is that sometimes what we'll do here, because just as a way to better use my time and repurpose, content that I think is really good, is that we'll take any of our live videos that we do. So if I do a Facebook Live one day, I might throw that as a podcast. I might turn that into a podcast. So you might hear sometimes is me just talking like this right now to the microphone, which is what I'm doing right now in my office. Or you might hear something that sounds like me in the car because I'm recording it in the car, or I'm just getting back from the gym and I have a topic that comes into my mind and I record it on my phone. Or if I've done a Facebook Live or a Periscope or a YouTube or anything like that, and I feel like that's, valuable information, it's quick enough that we could get it into a podcast, then we could put it in there. And so you might hear me say, hey, we're live on Facebook, but we're really not at that point, obviously. But I think the whole idea is just getting multiple ways, multiple mediums of content out there so you can kind of pick and choose what feels right for you, right? So I think one of the best things that we've done at Option Alpha, and this is totally my wife's influence because she's a teacher and that's what she does, is we've tried to give you guys all the content in the training in as many different mediums as possible. So video, text, audio, right? And all those, types of, touch points really to learn. And so this is just another way of doing it. And hopefully you can, take whatever you feel is applicable to you or skip it an episode. If you don't want to hear it, just go ahead and skip it. There's going to be another one the next day, right? I probably assume that most of you may not listen to every single episode, and that's okay, but it'll all be out there for you because I just want to have the largest possible resource for options trading, really anywhere in the world. And that's what we're going for. So again, the audio might be sometimes me just here on the microphone, it might be, in the car. You might hear my kids in the background if I'm just recording a quick little snippet and I wanted to get something out there, and you might hear maybe screaming from the kids or whatever the case is in the background. So hopefully that's not too much of a turnoff, but again, I just want to set the stage for it. As far as feedback goes, I would love to get your feedback on topics for the show, questions for the show. You can always go to optionalpha.com/ask and submit a question there. That's the best way to do it because you can leave me a voicemail in there. And so if you have a little thing that you don't think, again, would justify a full-blown podcast episode, but a quick little answer that you want on a topic like, Kirk, how do I, sort my watch list? Or how do I look for trades? How do I find an earnings calendar? Those types of questions might be really, really good for the show. And again, since we're going to be doing it every single day, it helps me because it makes sure that we don't run out of topics. And believe me, I've got a list already of about 600 different things that I want to cover over the next 2 years. So I don't think that we're going to run out of any topics, and we're not going to go in any particular order. But if you do have a question, those are going to get added in first, right? So it's kind of first come, first serve in this regard, right? So the last thing I want to talk about here on the new Daily Call podcast is just my goal. My goal in this is to be more consistent. So the reason that I'm forcing myself to do a daily show is because I want to be more consistent in putting out content. Sometimes what we do is we go through phases, or what I've gone through phases of publishing podcasts. And then we might take 1 week off and kind of skip that weekly podcast. And now we're much better at doing that, of actually getting that weekly show in place every single week. But we went through a phase where we would skip a week or two here, and that's not good. I want to be more consistent. I want to be better about educating and better about my own trading. I think it's also just a good way for me just to get a lot of stuff off my chest that we don't often talk about. Often on the podcasts that we have now and on the training videos, it's all so topic focused for this is how you do it. You click this price, then you click this, right? Basically the mechanics of doing it. But what I want in this show is some of the background, high level strategy talk, again, the psychology of it, the thought processes that go into it that maybe we just don't get a chance to talk about. And I think it's really, really important. So one of the things I've already slated is a topic about a healthy pullback. I heard somebody say, the market's due for a healthy pullback. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck is a healthy pullback, right? That's a little topic podcast that I want to talk about. It's does that really mean anything, or should the markets pull back if they're healthy, right? So those little things I think you guys will find very, very interesting. As always, my goal is to get this thing top of the charts and more investors listening to it. So the best thing that you can do is, if you enjoy listening to this podcast in the future and after you've listened to a couple episodes, please don't hesitate to leave us a rating and a review. It is literally how we grow. We do not do much advertising. I think we spend like $10 a day in just like advertising on Facebook and just kind of branding. But otherwise, we grow through word of mouth. We grow by people sharing our content, by telling their friends, by texting a business partner. And that's the best way that you can continue to help support us. So if you think that this is helpful, if you find an episode that's really, really good, please share it. Please be an advocate for us, because again, that's how we've continued to grow over the last basically 10 years through word of mouth. So I hope you guys enjoy the future episodes coming up. Like I said, it's a new endeavor for us. It's very, very exciting. I think it's going to be a cool format. It's going to be totally different than maybe some of the other stuff that we've done. But I think these little snippets and tidbits will eventually help you in your journey towards options trading success and towards making smarter, more profitable trades. So until next time, happy trading. Thanks for joining us on the Daily Call. Be sure to subscribe right now for more daily options trading ideas, strategies, and tactics to help you learn how to place smarter, more profitable trades. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and a review so we can continue to bring you the best daily content possible. We'll see you again tomorrow, right here on the Daily Call from OptionAlpha.com.